All right. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, British Council, for considering this space in order to talk about perhaps one of the concepts that's been on the mouth of most of the people nowadays. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence-based writing evaluation, specifically for the purpose of academic writing in English language teaching scenarios, which is obviously something that has a connection with the BBELT conference that we're having today. My name is Daniel Murcia and I work at the Technological University of Pereira in Colombia. I'm also part of one of the research groups and a special interest group which is called CLIO, Computational Linguistics Based on Input and Output. And today what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about this trendy issue, but from a research perspective that is going to land us into something that is more appropriate for scholars and obviously all teachers and curriculum designers. So I wanted to start perhaps by having a conversation about background. Do you happen to have any experience in artificial intelligence or with artificial intelligence? And I say so mainly because I know everyone has had some degree of experience. Would you please be so kind and write on the chat, or if you want, you may wait by the end of the session so we could have a conversation about the experiences you've developed with the use of artificial intelligence. And whilst you do that, I'm going to continue with the presentation talking a little bit about the notion that obviously everyone has had some connection to the use of artificial intelligence, whether as passive consumers, that is, you using your phone when you take a picture, it's AI powered. When you enter to your Instagram, your TikTok account, that is AI powered. So most of those algorithms, which you don't know how they work, you use them as a passive consumer of such technology. But at the same time, you might become an active user of it by perhaps incorporating those technological resources within your language classes or in whatever work you're developing. They might be part of it. So as I published last year an article about discourse analysis and misinformation in the AI era, I started to see that this connection has gained some attention in teachers because somehow we want to transform from that passive consumer perception into more of an active one. And this has led me to explore in depth some of the issues and problems that we had in the place where I work. Mainly one that has to do with large-scale assessment. I work in a university program which has an English language institute, and in tendency we have about 19,000 students, and those of which we normally have to test by the end of every semester, which leads us to an estimate of 3,100 written products by students that well, you could imagine how difficult it is for teachers to mark all of them. So we've started to come up with some notions that allowed us to understand that we need to add some technology to this process in order to gain efficiency. And one of them has to do with obviously what we know nowadays as automated scoring engines, like for example the one used by ETS as the E-Rater, and obviously all of the different movements in technology used that uses automated scoring engines in order to understand how the linguistic features of the students could be marked in a positive, negative, neutral way. So it is based on that we have started to know that there were a previous conception of language evaluation that was obviously automatized. The concept of automatized scoring is not new, but it has to do with the way that we pre-store correct answers, so the student got a right or wrong answer, and perhaps there was no feedback. The student knew it was right, or the student knew it was wrong, but this binary knowledge didn't allow for the students to know what precisely should have been changed or transformed in the part of the writing. So that is why I have started to consolidate a notion of digitally mediated literacy that has to do with academic writing, obviously in online environments, but that it could also work in face-to-face environments where technology is used, or hybrid environments, blended environments, as you may think of them. And because of that, we think of a shift in perception from a normative to a more of a transformative approach of academic writing. That is, when we include all the technologies to the use of academic writing, then the normative conceptions and the conventional uses of academic writing might transform. So how about if we start to think of distributing the mentoring process of academic writing to intelligent tutoring systems that perhaps could work? In one of the book chapters that I'm publishing this year, I have mentioned this conception of distributed mentoring and the use of intelligent tutoring systems. And it has brought some particular attention, mainly because there's a mediatic approach to what is happening with the uses of AI in writing, and especially in education. I guess most of you have seen how ChatGPT, it's now being banned in schools in the United States and across different places of the world, demanding that there is evident plagiarism and that it's not providing enough support for writers. Now, what I should develop then, it's somehow a framework for teachers to understand that when we talk about GPT technologies, or what the ChatGPT created by OpenAI provides, it's a process that we have been studying for quite a long time, that started from what we call hot encoding into something called word to vector, which is a type of technology that allows us to map how the words of the language are connected one to the other. So this was some sort of a semantic analysis of the words. But then later on, we had the chance to use technologies called the transformers, or what is known now as the GP3 technologies, that what it does is it localizes words, it gives them a numeric value, that is a vector, and it connects them according to how close the semantic value of the words have. And because of that, then language technology, it's started to emerge in a way that it's providing different opportunities for teachers to use it. So, as the whole process came out, we started to know that language teaching is part of artificial narrow intelligence. And we started to use concepts of machine learning in order to gain what a natural theoretical framework that we're constructing leads us into the understanding that is not anymore computer-assisted language learning, but instead intelligent computer-assisted language learning. So I talk about these intelligent frames of ICOL and obviously computer-mediated communications in ELT. And so we connect this to a field that is automated writing systems and automated writing evaluation. So what I've decided to do is that I use the engine called IntelliMetric. What it does is that it uses, it stores the essay files, the productions of students. It passes them through a text processor. Then the text processor has something called a text parser, which analyzes based on previous results and analysis. And it does a computational analysis that it has been trained with 16 million word concepts. And so what it does is that the judges, which are virtual judges, define and provide scores to the students, and so they come up with a final score. This technology was developed in 2019 by Vantage Labs, and so because of that, we thought of creating a research project that had as an initial question understanding the outcomes of implementing automated writing evaluation in a course of academic writing. So I came up with two specific questions that had to do with the perceptions of the students and how the course tutor assumed the use of automated writing evaluation, but also the principles that could be derived from integrating those intelligent writing evaluation systems in language teaching scenarios that are mediated by AI. So what I wanted to know by the end is to analyze the functionality and the output of the interventions using the IntelliMetric, the engine you just saw, in order to know how it impacted and how it manifested within the course of academic writing. So in terms of the methodology, I initially worked with 18 teachers, pre-service teachers. Out of those, 11 mentioned that they were going to be part of the study, and one course tutor who was the course tutor of the academic writing process. I use a qualitative design under a grounded theory approach. And I used 3 different methodologies, which was the focus group interviews, journal entries, and Think Aloud retrospective protocols, that allowed me to come up with that notion. This study was developed under the Emergency on Life academic writing course that was during the pandemic times, where we have to be at home. And I developed it within the 16 weeks period of a semester in Colombia with a class that had 4 hours in a 6th semester undergraduate program in a public university. In order to develop the analysis of the data, I use a qualitative data analysis software called NVivo Pro 12. And I developed an open actual selective coding process with one research assistant that allowed me to understand my integrated agreement within the codes that we created. If I show you what it looks like, this is somehow the structure of Intellimetric final report. You provide the input, which is the essay of the student, and then what it does is that it gives us some notions about holistic scoring, focus and purpose, content and development, organization, language use, grammar and mechanics, and it gives us a score so that the student becomes aware of the problems and the scoring in a matter of, say, 2 minutes or so. Then the student is capable to understand where all the problems occurred. So the tutor of the writing process could also see, as you might see in parentheses and a blue line, where the highlighting, it expresses what types of problems are inside the text, but also the different categories in which you may find most of the error count. And it gives us a number for the readability of the document and also the word count, as you might see there. So after you knew the interface and what it looks like, the reports, I came up with some preliminary findings that allowed me to provide some notions in order to provide a more empirical anchor to this process of using artificial intelligence within academic writing procedures. So when I developed the open coding notes, I've got about 40 different codes. Out of those, I organized them in 8 specific ones. Some that had to do with attitudes, usability, the writing, the assessment process, the insights on course development, the accessibility, some social factors, and some others that are no classified. So these categories finally allow to understand about these 4 elements. First one is that Intellimetric as a metalinguistic companion and automated writing evaluation inaccurate system. The second aspect is that there are some psychological factors, mainly human factor dependence, when students of English start to use these types of intelligent tutoring systems. The third is that there are some insights from the course where I started to talk a little bit about the term teacher-technology mutual symbiosis that we're going to see in a minute. And finally, that there is some issues related with the writing style, call it the writing style dichotomy, which has to do with text prediction, new ways of writing, and software integration into these aspects. So let's explore some of them very quickly in order to know a little bit of the findings of what happened at the end of the study. First one has to do with humanizing technology, that is teacher dependence. As you might see the extract from a student in Spanish, it says, "Yes, professor, I prefer a companion of peer, a person that is in advanced semesters in order to check my writing. I feel that Intellimetric does not give a complete correction of what we say. There is something that it is still missing." So perhaps one of the first things is the need of humanizing technology, because students still require feedback from teachers, not because they want to know the what was wrong or what was right, but the way that teachers express the feedback and how they correct and provide all the changes and error highlights that a normal paper might have. A second aspect has to do with teacher-technology symbiosis. I think of it in a biologist term, because somehow we need to find the patterns to integrate with these types of technologies that require further reflection and more of empirical data analysis to understand which could be the approaches in order to do that. So as you might see, here is an entry of a research journal that says, out of all the issues that students expressed, I noticed that the most prominent was that I, as the teacher of the course, have no control. This implies that the design of the assignment could have been planned by me, but the aspects of writing were not determined or known by me. The students have more experience with the engine and ask me questions to which I have no responses. I did not program the interface. When teachers are exposed to the use of ITS, Intelligent Tutoring Systems, teachers do not design those ITS. Teachers are also users of the ITS, so they have no control of how to provide feedback to the students because mostly this algorithm was already programmed. So the teacher doesn't know how to use those systems and has no control out of it. What it's called in this finding is that there should be some teacher technology symbiosis, something that provides from side to side an intermingled contribution between what the tech offers and what the teacher and the instructional moment could provide. We could see some other samples out of it, and in another sample it says that artificial intelligence is very advanced, but it is not the same as a teacher marking a paper, because I still believe that those machines or artificial intelligence does not understand pragmatic issues behind. Or there is another part of an extract or a sample of the data that says, I had high expectations about the software, however, after using it, I think that the experience could have been better. I suppose that because it is the first time using it, I found it more complex than I expected. So all this data is leading us to understand that there's a still obviously human dependence factor. There's a need to integrate with these type of technologies, but also that there is something about the writing style. There is this issue about artificial intelligence and text prediction that most of you know it, because when you write on a messaging, instant messaging software, or when you're writing on Google Docs or any text processor, you will see that it's always correcting you. So the students have a problem when writing in these interfaces, and the teachers have a much major problem that it's sometimes we don't know if students are writing by themselves or if they have assistance of the software, the engines, and additional software. In the sample that is written that says Grammarly, it tells me that I have to write something, but it's separated and I didn't feel that part should have been written because it's not good written English, and I don't know, at the end I use it. So what this is telling me is that some students provide enough confidence to what they're writing, and so they just leave it up to the machine, and that is something that is compromising the writing style of students, which is something that we need to talk a lot about. So this brings us to a need of coming up with some implications. I guess that the first implication is that there is a need to ignite debate on the conscientious integration of AI in language education. This is how this is going to shape the role of language teachers. Mainly, we talk about AI replacing teachers, but I bring to debate a conscientious integration that I label a symbiotic mutual relation between AI technologies and language teaching. And the second implication has to do with intelligent computer-assisted language learning, that it was previously called computer-assisted language learning, but obviously the intelligent factor will come up to be. Now, how are we going to teach teachers to teach with AI? That is somehow digitally mediated literacy that is not only for students, but also a digital mediated literacy that allows teachers to know how to integrate these types of technologies. This is something that brings debate, a long discussion. I hope we could have this interaction today. And I just wanted to ignite this conversation because I know everyone's talking about it. And in case you want more solid findings and all the reports, I obviously have published them and I could provide them to you so you have enough information. Thank you very much for listening. This is a presentation